Hello and welcome to season one, episode 26 of Jacked Up Ming Frank. I'm your host, Jack Amanos, here with my co-host Frank Arenio, and we'll discuss about the Knicks' big time win and team performance to steal game in Detroit. And we'll also talk about the second MSG game that we didn't get to watch. We didn't get to talk about because in that game they did lose. And we'll of course give some updates on all the other series and how they have turned out while we were off. We will finally finally, it's the NFL draft time. We'll give our opinions on the Giants Jets picks. But I also want to go and talk about the first storyline that everybody's talking about is potential. I even saw them mocked up to 3 with the Giants because they were a QB needed team and they could go out and they could go get Shador Sanders. But then when it came down to the kind of first to 2 days left until the NFL draft, you saw him go mocked up to 20, but the slide all the way down to round 5 was head scratching. So my first question is, why do you really think he fell that far? What's your kind of opinion on that?
Jack, this topic, like the Sanders, Sanders. How do you say it with the S at the end, right? The Sanders, like the two of them, Dion and Shador. Preceding the draft, like it's been, they've been a big story. Colorado football with Deion Sanders, all the attention there. Dion being this Hall of Fame NFL cornerback, great athlete, played Major League Baseball, his whole story and how famous he is and how big he is in the sports world, particularly football. And then Shador being the quarterback for Colorado, and Colorado having a good season last year after a poor season the year before. So they've been in the headlines for a while. Dion's been in the headlines for a long, long time, but specifically now with college football and now in this draft. So now draft day comes and he goes in the 5th round. Like, I think everybody's shocked, like, who saw that coming. But now that it's happened, it's like, I get it. Like the teams, like the media, it's the media. The media has their narrative. I know like media is made up of individuals, but the big media has their narrative, which is very pro Shador and pro Dion. Like, this is a travesty and there's some sort of collusion
ESPN
going
did all
on.
for that. ESPN, in my opinion, their draft coverage was terrible. It was all about Shador Sanders, and once he got drafted, they were done. They packed it up for the day. They were all. They didn't pack it up. They were just talking about Shador Sanders.
Yeah.
That coverage was awful. That was terrible. That was a travesty. That it was 2025. They didn't even talk about Jackson Dart. I felt like as an even chance of being a Giant, even though everybody knew the Giants were 100% deadlocked on Jackson Dart. We'll talk about that later.
But it's like, but why? It's like, for whatever reasons, you can, and we're talking about it here, but it's like, if you're really you really put yourself out there, as a talk show host, a podcaster, someone in the media, and you challenge the narrative of the big media, the big sports media like ESPN, Fox Sports, as I say, Fox Sports, you read their headlines, it's just like, it's a lot of Sanders, Shador, very pro Shador, and like he's he now has a chance to shut everybody up, but it's like they're making him into a victim. They're it's like he's not like I want to have a fair conversation about it, but the people in the media that are just so pro Shador and pro Dion, and if you say anything critical of them, it must be some motive that you have that is, not a good motive. It's like, no, like, just look at the way Shador carries himself. Look at the way Deion Sanders has carried himself his whole career. Like, I'm just being honest, I'm not a Deion Sanders fan. I don't like the way he conducts himself. I never did. He calls himself Prime. Now he's Coach Prime. It's like, it's all about his brand. And I know people that just like love him, think he's great. And fine, people have their opinions. Okay, we give a discussion, but like, it's just like he's a great coach and he's instilling great values and discipline. And he came into Colorado and he changed things and all this stuff. And it's like, the way I see him, to me, this guy is just the ultimate self-promoter. and he talks a big game, and it's just like you take him, you take his son who's followed his lead. You hear about the stories about the interviews he did, leading up to the draft with the teams, and the teams were very unimpressed and really turned off by it. And I think, it's the old saying, like father, like son. And again, for some reason, people object to this critical lens, but it's like, can you just see the way that they behave and the way they speak? He built his own draft room. It's like, who does that? Like, we're not allowed to call that out and say, like, there's something there. Like, nobody else does that. Most of the guys, I don't know what the percentages are, but they go to the draft and then they go up there and they get their hat and their jersey with Roger Goodell and the team they got drafted by. This guy's got his own draft room. It's like, what is this? And it's like, people say, oh, it should be about the talent. And first of all, like, I'm not an expert enough to break down his talent. I don't watch a lot of college football. I'm not going to come on here and break down his throws and this and that, but I watch and I know enough and I hear people, and it's not, everybody didn't think he was a top 5 pick. There are people saying no, later first round. And there were some people that say, you know what, he's not a first rounder. Maybe he's a second rounder. I even heard third or fourth rounder. So there were some people out there, but you know what? I kind of feel like there's more people that felt that way about his draft status, but they're afraid to say it because God forbid you don't say that Shedeur Sanders is a top 5 pick. Like you're going to be ostracized in the media and you're going to be, on the bad list. And it's like, what is, like, I don't get that. Like, why are they treated? Why is Shedeur and Deion treated like these sacred cows where you can't criticize them? So you know what? I give the NFL teams credit. I do. Like, it's like, I understand why they stayed away from him. And I give them credit for saying, you know what? No, we don't want any part of this. We don't want Deion coming in and, if he doesn't like what's going on, he's going to, speak up and it's the media's going to cover him. And, oh, Deion's upset with team X or team Y, team Z, whatever team picked them. They don't want to deal with that. Or rumors of, oh, Deion's going to be the coach of this team. Like, that's
guess what? He's lucky to be in the league. He got picked in round 5, so he's lucky to even be in the league.
Yeah. And I know, like, I'm going on and on with this, but it's like, I actually like this. The story does interest me. I think it's like the Sanders story is very interesting. I mean, that's why the media puts it out there. It draws a lot of attention, but it's the fact that, like, Mel Kiper, like, throwing
that was awful.
A hissy fit, just like melting down. Like, it's like, what is your agenda? Like, why are you so protective of Shedeur and Deion Sanders? Like, I kind of do get, but it's like we'd be going into like psychology, and we're a sports show. But it's like, what is your issue?
That meltdown was crazy, especially in the 5th round of the NFL draft. I mean, you would have thought it ought to be over. I mean, 5th round of the NFL draft, you're having a meltdown. That was what turned me off. That's what went maybe go back to NFL Network because they do a good job with their coverage. They were still a
disgrace. Jack, I have loathed ESPN for a long time. I can't stand their sports coverage. I never like putting the network on. I'll put it on to watch games I watch. So, even baseball, I can't stand their baseball coverage. I mute the TV when they have baseball games. I like their hockey coverage. Hockey overall is good. But the rest of sports, to me, ESPN, I can't take ESPN. And the ESPN's so tied to their narrative and their agenda, and they just push and push and push. And for whatever reasons, it's Shedeur and Deion Sanders. They protect them at all costs. And it's like, what is this?
This guy's only trait that's like makes him unique is that he's accurate. And it's like, you look at other NFL quarterbacks in that draft, they can move inside the pocket. They can improvise. Like, let's talk about the football stuff. This guy, the only thing he has is accuracy, which is big because you're an NFL quarterback. You can start right away if you have accuracy. But look, there's a lot more traits in, for example, the Giants going with Jackson Dart. He's a lot more better traits, even though he won't start year 1. There's other QBs that have better traits. And then also you add on with like the one good trait with just all the standard drama. How much do you want to take on the drama if the guy's not the best QB ever? You take on the drama if he's the best QB ever. He's not really the best.
He's not right. He's not good enough to take all that on. And then you'll get people push. It's like Mel Kiper and some of these other people. It's like anything you say, they will just shoot it down, metaphorically, knock it down, and then accuse you of things. Like you're against Shadur Sanders and Dion, for your own, motives that are not pure and not good. And it's like, no, like, could we just have a fair
Yeah,
conversation about it? And
my
like Dion, I'm not saying it's not a reason to pick him high, but like Dion had Shadur's number retired at Colorado. I mean, he played 2 years at Colorado. His numbers are retired. Like, they're all about themselves. It's like it just strikes me right in the face that like they're building a brand. It's all about them. They love this, their life of luxury. Okay, Dion's made a lot of money, but it's like, it's in your face. He's got his own draft room. Some of the stuff he says, it's me, me, me. And it's just me, me, me all day with them. And then again, like, they're a package deal, and the whole, Dion, him being so high profile, and rumors of him coming to the NFL, and teams don't want to deal with that. I get it. They're like, nah, I pass on this. I
yeah,
don't understand how, even if you think he should have been picked really high, like, I don't understand how you can't be fair and say, you know what, I get why NFL teams did this, instead of, oh, it was collusion with the owners. Like, what? Like, come on. I'm not
yeah,
saying this stuff never happened before. I think that sort of stuff goes on sometimes, sure. But I
yeah.
don't think in this case, it's just like the team's like, we don't want to deal with this. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't pick him. The Steelers, like, they're been a great franchise for a long time, very solid franchise, consistent. They're going to pick the player they think is best for their franchise. They don't have some ulterior motive. It's just that the Steelers like, no, we pass on this.
Yeah, it was at the like I wasn't watching the drafts like that much. I mean, I was watching it through like, there's alerts always on your phone when this guy gets drafted there, that stuff. But yeah, I mean, outside it did feel like a little shocking. I mean, it honestly, I think did, and I mean, feeling bad for him. I just feel like it's a weird situation. I mean, the guy was thinking he's about to go round one, and then all the stuff, and then now he's back to round five. So it's not about feeling for him. It's like, I mean, you're supposed to go, and you must feel something. But look,
Well,
he
maybe this is something for Shador. Look, I,
maybe
I'm not.
it actually is. I mean, if you don't listen to ESPN, I'm like, he could work hard. I mean, look at the Browns depth chart. He could be Kenny Pitt. He could be a lot of players in that Browns. That's an easy competition to win if you just work hard. I mean, you don't even have to win in the year one. Look, this guy, it's now time for him to win a QB job, which he hasn't done yet in his career because
He's always been protected. He's always had it. He's always had it handed to him. Look, he's obviously a really high level talent. He's clearly an NFL quarterback. I don't know how good he's going to be, but he has a lot of potential. It's clear. But his father's been his coach his whole life. He played for his father,
his,
Colorado.
his father
He's
also, yeah,
he's been told his whole life how great he is and pumped up. Humility is a good thing, and this should serve as a humbling thing for Shador Sanders. I don't know if
now he's got to
he'll
go win a
approach it
job.
that way. I don't know if it will humble him, but this should be something that humbles him. And like, I forget what he was saying, but it's like he hasn't shown any humility yet. It's like, oh, now it's like, I'll show you sort of thing. I don't remember the exact words, but hopefully for him over time, and hopefully soon, there's a humbling effect there, because I ultimately, like, humility is a good thing, and I think that's, something his father really lacks. Like, I don't see how anyone can mistake Deion Sanders for being a humble
Yeah,
person. It's not judging him. It's just the way he carries himself. And people say, oh, look how successful he is. And it's such a lie to me that, oh, well, you got to be this arrogant, self-centered person to be successful. Like, I totally reject that. I actually think being arrogant and self-centered holds you back. I think the most successful people, whether you want to measure it in money or not, okay, you make money, there's nothing wrong with making money, but it's like, I just reject that premise that you need to be this self-centered, egotistical person to be successful in the world. I don't agree with that. So I think this could be a humbling thing for Shador, and I hope it happens. I'd love to see him get himself on the right track in this regard, and then take his talents and maximize them. It'd be you've seen plenty of other people like this. They're young and they're immature and arrogant, and then They
especially with
they
this
grow
situation.
up and they mature and they get more humble, and then they take off and then they take their talents and are really successful. So hopefully that happens here. But I think he's up against it, and I don't think his father serves him well. I don't know if his father ever changes, and there's people really object to what I'm saying, but it's like his father. I don't want to be overly critical, but I think in what we're talking about here, his father really does not do a service for Shador. I think he actually holds him back. And look at where we got drafted. I don't see anybody could argue that his father was not a factor in this.
Yeah, I think he was, and I mean, just him saying, "Oh, he's not gonna get picked there. We're gonna pull an Eli Manning. We're like, we finesse our way to a team. You're a 5th-round draft pick. You can't you can do that stuff now. Now you're lucky to be in the league. So even in that first round, if you cannot pull, you're not there. Deion Sanders needs to realize that his son isn't good enough to go pull something out of the hat to go where he wants to. That's just not possible. And just that thing, it turns teams off. It does. If he's gonna think, oh, Deion's gonna be like, nah, I'm not even gonna let that happen. I'm gonna make sure he goes to Team A. Well, what happens if he gets drafted by Team B? Well, I'm gonna make sure he gets that stuff must turn scouts off because I want to draft a QB that I know is gonna be.
No. It's just we're in this world now. We're in this society where it's like
I want him at
you're just seeing the obvious, and you have people like Mel Kiper. I'm going to keep saying his name because he's just embarrassing. I never liked him. Mel Kiper, the draft expert. Come on, to me, that guy's so into himself. He thinks he's a lot more important than he is. I didn't like him going back to as a kid. And he would I remember as a teenager, I'd watch it. He'd talk like he's the draft expert. It's I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? And I don't respect him as a member of the media, and it's like he absolutely. It seems to be a guy he just has no shame. He doesn't think anything of it. He thinks he's doing something good. But it's the way he just defends Shador and Deion, and you can't criticize him. It's I mean, how you? I don't get how they can't just be reasonable about things and just try to understand where people are coming from who say, look, the way Shador carries himself, the Deion factor, everything we've talked about, it's reasonable and legitimate for teams to say, hey, no thanks. If you want to make the argument, well, look at the talent he is. It's worth taking a chance on this other stuff. People are making too big a deal about it, but I understand where they're coming from. Fine, you could take the take that he should have been a top 5 pick, but to smear people that, are in the corner of the NFL teams and saying, hey, I wouldn't have picked him. No way. I'm not going near this because of this stuff. To just smear people and question their motives and no, that, you're just trying to silence the conversation for whatever agenda you have. And it's I think with the media, it's because the Sanders story is such a big story and they want Deion and Shador to be in the headlines. And if he's a top 5 pick, he has a lot more credibility for being a major story than if he's a 5th-round pick. So I think that's what it is with the media, where it's they want the story, and now it's their stories. They still have the story now. It's a new story for the. It's a new story that comes about within the story.
For him to go number 5.
They much rather him be the top 5 pick so they could just keep selling it. Shador, Deion. But I don't know. If maybe they actually have a better story here. Because they just keep talking about it and on about he's a 5th-round pick. So, the media, look, it's not everybody in the media, but the media has its agenda, ratings, money. It's very understandable. So they it. Go ahead.
He could have some motivation. I do understand that. I mean, look, there are QBs drafted out of him that he may think that shouldn't have. Well, you got to go out there and, win your job, first of all, and then motivation comes into it. I think if he uses that motivation, that's perfectly fine. I like that. I actually do understand that he has some motivation. It's finally he does, because when he was in Colorado, he didn't need to go on any motivation trip. He got valet to the QB role automatically. to the number one QB role
Well, I think that's
automatically.
another
Now,
thing. That's another great point too, Jack. It's like he hasn't been challenged enough. So it's not just the arrogance and the um the lack of humility and his father and that whole deal. But I think tied into that though is the element of he hasn't been challenged much. He hasn't had to face much adversity. I don't know his whole life story, but everybody faces adversity.
he does have
You want to be careful, but like he hasn't really had to grind in terms of football. He hasn't had to face what other guys in the draft had to face. And there's something to be said about that. You take a look at guys who also have a big time talent and their whole story and their whole path. You're like, this guy's prepared for the NFL. This guy's mature. This guy's battle tested. We'll go with this guy. So that's always been legitimate stuff. But for whatever reason, with Shedeur Sanders, no, we can't criticize anything, according to the Mel Kipers of the world. But I'll ask you this question, Jack, because I can only take so much of the coverage. Like I didn't watch a lot of it. I know enough for us to talk about the show and know what's going on. But I'm not sitting there listening to the people on ESPN. I don't know how much you watch, but I'm not sitting there for 5 hours listening to them. I at a certain point I can't take it.
I listen to my own YouTube.
But like how much of the talk, not just ESPN, but the outlets too, but how much of the talk was actually comparative, where it's Shedeur Sanders as compared to other quarterbacks? Like, were they talking a decent amount about, well, Shedeur Sanders is better than this quarterback for these reasons? Or is it just, oh no, Shedeur didn't get picked because of these people that, have it out for Shedeur and Dion?
I do think they were like, when the Giants were up on the clock, which is when I was watching ESPN, they were comparing Jackson Dart to Shedeur Sanders. But what they said, okay, this guy's accuracy, but then Jackson Dart has this, he could be rough on the accuracy part. He's not consistent with it, but he could also move. He can get out and run.
How about that he played in the SEC? I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Playing in the SEC, like I heard someone talking about this. It's a legitimate point. It's like he's much more battle tested because he played in the SEC, or somebody who played in the Big Ten. Well, those are the two best conferences by far, and the SEC is the best. So, like, that's a factor. Jackson Dart played in the SEC, and Shedeur Sanders played first of the Pac-12, and then last year was the Big 12.
Well, look, Jalen Milroe, for example, went to the Seahawks in round 3. You're like, okay, why did he go over? Because that guy played with freaking Nick Saban. This guy's been coached by freaking Nick Saban. Like, he's been coached hard. He has and he also now he had a new coach. So he had a bunch of coaches. He had to actually go through, maybe even getting yelled at. I don't even know. I'm not telling you anything about Dion's coaching. He might have yelled at him, screamed at him, but actually, like, getting under like his spot might be taken in a
Nick Saban is one of the best college football coaches of all time. He's the elite of the elite. So, like, those are factors that have always been legitimate. But again, with Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders, it's, oh, no, can't talk about that because Mel Kiper is going to have a meltdown. Like, no, we're having an honest conversation here. And, it could come across, I'm, too hard on Deion and Shedeur, but it's like, all right, but we're focusing on why he dropped to the 5th round.
Yeah.
And there's clearly legitimate reasons for that.
One of my cons in my draft sheet was he has inexperience out of his dad's system. And that is definitely what, especially if it's his dad's system, inexperience out of one system is really going to turn people off because, other players have played in different systems, with different coaches. Yeah. Even if players are transferring, they're playing with different coaches, playing in different systems. Not saying transfer is good, but you're playing a different system, playing with different coaches. This guy just played in one system with his dad, so that could be like, does he really?
That's why it goes back to what I said before. I'm going to, I know people think this is harsh, but I don't think his dad has done him a service in terms of football.
Yeah. Does he really want to learn if I'm for example Coach A? Does he really want to learn my system? Because he's all learned Coach Sanders' system.
It's Coach Prime. It's not Coach Sanders.
I was gonna say,
I can't help myself. Coach Prime. Continue, Jack. I have a lot to say.
remember the Lonzo Ball thing with the big baller brand?
I've heard the comparison between.
But LeVar Ball's not like a player of like Deion Sanders, so it's kind of different. But you do understand.
I think it is different. Deion to me is another thing. LeVar Ball,
LeVar was funny. He went on television. He was like, "I'm gonna beat Michael Jordan."
Well, that was the thing. Like, there was actually some humor there. Like, there's no humor with Deion Sanders. It's just always him. Oh, how great it's how he's always been, no matter what he's done. And like, but now it's you can't, and like now in this society now, you can't criticize him.
Well,
so, but for whatever reason, he's put up on a pedestal as this cultural icon. Where when he was a player, I mean, he was very famous. Look, he was a two-sport athlete. Like, there's no question the talent and what he did as an athlete, particularly as a football player. But the guy played in Major League Baseball too, played in the World Series with the Braves. Like, one of the best athletes ever. But like now it's just, again, he's on this pedestal where he is beyond criticism. And if you criticize him in the media, like the media vultures are going to come after you. I mean, like Dan Orlovsky on ESPN, like he's not known as a guy who like stirs the pot. And he's an analyst. Like I heard his analysis of Shedeur Sanders. It's like, this is all very reasonable. And this is Dan Orlovsky. Like, I don't think he has it out for Shedeur and Deion. He's just giving you his analysis on Shedeur Sanders, and he kept it to him as a quarterback. I don't remember him even talking about the other stuff. He just broke him down as a quarterback, breaking down, throws and him taking sacks, holding on to the ball too long. I mean, that's all legitimate stuff.
Well, yeah, I think you could honestly also, as an analyst, be like, you could still be like, "Oh, this is shocking." I mean, look at my big board going and do it. I mean, he's probably like number 15 on or number 20 on my big board, or even number 30. So just commit. It's shocking, but look, then you take a step back if you're an analyst, and then you actually talk about why is he here now? Maybe I was wrong. If you still think that you're right after looking at it, that's perfectly fine. But you gotta take a step back. Be like, okay, now he's drafted by for example, whatever pick he was drafted at. These scouts work really hard. So you got to take that in consideration. Actually, take a step back and be like, what do these scouts really think when they're looking at Shedeur Sanders?
Well, you brought up a great point and said, maybe some of these people in the media have to take a look at themselves and say, was I wrong? But they don't do that. Mel Kiper never does that. I've seen enough of this guy. Like, that's who he is. It's not judging him. That's who he is. He has to, and there's others like him. They have to justify their stance. They will never take a step back and say, maybe I was wrong. And I'm not saying they have to say they're wrong. They can say, no, I disagree with this. I totally disagree with this, even having a passion for it. But to smear others, and it's like this major travesty that Shedeur Sanders was taken in the 5th round. Like, give me a break.
Yeah,
he's not the first guy to fall in the draft.
Yeah, he was
the best quarterback of all time. Was picked 199th. Now I know Brady wasn't expected to go real high and he fell, but the best quarterback ever was picked 199 to 6th round. So you know what, Shedeur? Why don't you take the Tom Brady approach to things and go after it and work your butt off? And yeah, you could try to show people, but don't make it now. I'm going to show the world and this and that. Like, just quiet down and go to work.
Yeah, he's number 7.
And it'd be a great story. Again, he does that great story, and I'll praise him more than anybody else. It'd be a great story if he does that. But I don't know. I'm not optimistic it's going to happen. And I'm sorry. I blame his father for a lot of it. The media influence. But hopefully for Shedeur, hopefully he's able to approach things the right way.
Yeah, he's number 17 on my big board. But as we talk about it, okay, maybe I definitely was wrong. But, it's okay. I'm shocked. I'm actually shocked he went round 5 because I had him 17 on my big board. But then I took a step back. I'm like, okay, it's round 5. There must be something. These guys these scouts don't just read one article. They actually go and watch tape and do whatever, talk to them, which is big. They talk to them. They go and have interviews one-on-one, even coaches one-on-one with them, GMs, or they even go in with each other, owner,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, it sounds like, again, from the reports out there, it sounds like in these interviews, like it was like these teams are thinking, like, are you kidding me? This guy's not ready for the NFL.
Because they don't have interviews
But
with
what's so like? What is so like unbelievable about that? Like you watch the way he acts, you watch the way his father acts, and it's like, to me when I read it, it's like, that's no surprise. What else would you expect? He's
And
going to go in
also,
there and carry himself in a humble, mature way. He never has, and he gets it from his father. Like, it's just so blatant to me. And it's like, again, the media protection of them. It's crazy.
yeah,
You
when
know,
the
I like.
Giants were on the clock at 25, I'm like, look, if we take Shedeur Sanders, does he want to sit for a year behind Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston if they aren't the best QBs in the world and they may struggle? And then just Deion Sanders goes on his Twitter and starts
Do you think
using
the
his middle
Maras and the
finger.
Tishes real? I know, like, Giant fans are not happy with them these days, but look, I mean, the Giants were a good franchise. You know, have had a good history until recent
Yeah,
years, which have been very bleak. You think the Maras and the Tishes want to put up with Deion Sanders
yeah,
and
but
Shedeur Sanders? They don't want to deal with that. Like, and how could you blame teams for not wanting to deal with that? It's just like, it's so reasonable, but yet
especially if there's
people like
another QB
Mel
that you
Kiper
like.
Jr., want to lecture and get on their soapbox and tell the world how he knows better, and these teams are stupid, and then there's collusion. Like, please,
The
it's
only
it's
the
it's
only one real starting
nonsense.
quarterback in that draft was Cam Ward. The only starting level quarterback out of day one that I feel comfortable about is Cam Ward. That's my opinion. Point blank period. The only starting level quarterback in that 2025 NFL draft is Cam Ward. And that's about it. That's it. No Shedeur Sanders, no Jack. Those guys aren't startable. So you're looking at it like, do I want Shedeur Sanders to sit for a year? Do I want to deal with that fiasco of watching him sit for a year and having him take in and
And
learn?
his father's going to be involved.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, this is on a pro sports level, which is, it's crazy. But this is something that's common on an amateur level. It's like, I don't want to put up with the father. It's the kid is talented, but I don't want to put up with the father or the parents. Like, but this is on the pro level. It's bad enough when it's in amateur sports, which it goes on all the time. But on the pro level, this is going on. And the team's like,
Especially it's big when
it's
the
a
father.
multi-billion-dollar business. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's high stakes where it's like jobs are on the line. These people, their jobs are on. Like, I know they all make a lot of money, but it's like these picks, they got to get these picks right. No, I mean, I know they get everyone right, but there's big stakes here for them. And it's like, I'm not just gonna pick him because the media says I should pick him. No, it's not what's best for our team.
Yeah, I don't think it's what's best for their team. And especially the Giants weren't, if I'm talking about them as we translate to them, they weren't looking at a start right away QB. So, I mean, you're going to take in a guy with more skills if you give him a year. And Jackson Dart, who I think has a lot of skills, if you give him a year to learn the system, that's better than having a guy that has one good trait and having him sit behind with the fiasco. It's just everything adds up, and I do kind of feel bad for Shedeur Sanders because he's a good QB, and he probably, because of this QB class, he could have gone even in the first round. He could have even got shocked pick early top 10, a shocking pick because this QB class is so bad. But because of the whole fiasco, it made him go where he is right now because he could have gone earlier.
And
He
you just
definitely could have
you
because
look at the way his father acts now, and it's like there's no self-awareness, there's no self-reflection. He just doubles down, and it's like, and you say you feel bad for Shedeur. I do, in the sense that his father has not served him well. I just like he's not prepared him for the NFL. The way he has just been this helicopter parent and coddled him. He could do no wrong, retired his number at Colorado. I mean, everything at Colorado is about his son. That's not preparing his son for adulthood and preparing him specifically for the NFL. Well, we're not
No,
allowed to. We're not allowed to bring that up, according to Mel Kiper and those his his fellow media members that are of his mindset. Like we're like, come on, but it's like, how about taking it from this perspective of, okay, I'm not rooting against Shedeur Sanders, okay, but I don't like all the arrogance. I don't like all the all the me stuff. I don't like it. I don't like how pervasive it is in society and in sports. And look, we're all susceptible to it. I mean, we could all be me, myself included. I know it. We struggle with that as human beings. But I mean, like the lack of humility, the lack of self-awareness, and just this constant self-promotion and branding and marketing, and just the high-profile person that Dion is, and how much influence he has. And if you draft Shedeur, is Dion gonna come in and give his take? Like I'd be shocked if he didn't. Like if Dion isn't putting it out there, like, oh, I don't like what the Browns are doing, and I don't like the way they're treating my son, and who knows where that leads? Like, teams just don't want to put up with that. But again, I'm not rooting against Shedeur. Like, as a human being, I hope he gets on a good track and has success. Like, you root for people to get it. Like, he just doesn't get it. And that's why he dropped that. To me, that's why he dropped to the 5th round.
yeah,
When you look at other guys who got drafted, and I don't know them well, but teams look at them and say, this guy's prepared for the NFL. It's not just about your physical talent. It's not just about on the field, which is very important. Of course it is. But they look at them and say they're mentally ready. They're emotionally ready.
Together.
They have the right mentality. They have the right approach.
Jackson Dart is a dog. Jackson Dart is he's a strong-willed man, and I want everybody to succeed, but Eagles and Cowboys players. But that's besides the point. Let's get into the Giants. Their draft, and they did a very good job. This seems like a draft where there's GMs and coaches' jobs on the line, and they drafted like it. They went up and they went in the first round. Sometimes the right pick is best player available and smart. Sometimes if you get the 3rd pick, you go with a no-brainer. And Abdul Carter is a guy that may not be fit a need right now, but he's going to make this defense a wrecking ball. And I'm really happy to see that the Giants have an identity on the defensive end. The defensive line. They have a big-time identity. And it's shown they were able to build one. It took a few years, but, Joe Shane bringing the right guys on the defense, and, they're gonna really rush the passer. And I think you definitely need that with the NFC East of having Jane Daniels, Jalen Hurts, who are big time running out of the pocket, trying to improvise. You need someone, even Dak Prescott. You need someone that could really bring down the quarterback in that NFC East. So you bring in a guy like Abdul Carter who will just make things hell on QBs in the NFC East and all the NFC and all the NFL. And he also has potential, but he's also a guy that right out the gate will save your job if he plays well enough. So, yeah, and I think also in the first round, 25, trading up for Jackson Dart, whatever. If that's your guy, I've seen some people who don't like him as a player. He thinks that he's under pressure and he just throws some crazy interception, whatever. If you have thoughts about it, people have thoughts about him, whatever. But you have him developed for 1 year. The Ole Miss offense is different than the regular NFL offense. Have him develop 1 year, learn the playbook. But the guy crushed every single interview, which we talked about. Shedeur Sanders not crushing every single interview, but he did crush. I heard he crushed every single interview. A good guy. They drafted him well, and he can also really, really handle an offense. So he did well at Ole Miss. And now he's with the Giants, and Brian Dable has his project. If he can even keep his job, he does have a guy that can start in 2026. And I do like him if he really can develop well. I think the Giants did a good job. And also other picks in that draft, they just picked the best player available, which I really did like. Didn't really think a lot. I mean, you still want to think if you're drafting, but best player available was the Giants' real thought in that draft, which I think is fine, especially not trying to be cute and draft the fit, which that screwed them in a few couple of years.
So, does it make sense to say that now you drafted Jackson Dart, that the Giants should commit to Brian Dable being their coach for the long term? I mean, this is his forte, so it's like he's now the one responsible for developing him. So you got to commit to him to being a coach. Like, just like Dable, to me, I still think of year one and what he was able to do. Like if you drafted this quarterback, and now if you fire Dable after 1 year, well, then somebody else comes in.
Well, I guess you just have like a new coach for his year one. I mean but it's going to be big for him to learn the playbook. I think
So then you bring in a new coach, and then it's a new system, and
that's why I
a
would
lot
love
of
for
new
them to
things.
win
Like
this
so
year.
now it's just, and I wonder the Giants thinking, like, the Giants is the organization, is the ownership committed to Dable saying, "Look, you're our guy.
But if
You
we
have
stick
a
this year
great
again,
track record developing quarterbacks and on the offensive side of the ball. So, look, you're responsible for drafting Dart. You got a few years. You're responsible for developing Dart. You got a few years to do this. We're just going to try to be competitive in 2025 with Russell Wilson. See how that goes. But this is about 2026, 2027, 2028.
Yeah, I do think if the Giants do really stink, that's my opinion. I don't think it's the right thing, but I feel like the Giants ownership is like, if we really stink again, like, we gotta make it. That's just their opinion. That's not my opinion. But if they stink again,
but doesn't it depend on how they stink? Like if they just don't have the roster, and Russell Wilson is over the hill, and they go 4-13. I mean, is that really Brian Dable's fault? Like, there's a lot of coaches.
Mira maybe
Pretty much any coach would have went 4-13. But if Dable's a disaster and it's like things are really unraveling and he lost the locker room, and
if last year happens again, then with the new roster, because that was just an awful roster. But with this roster,
how much? But like even like last year, I mean, the team was terrible. So
they could be competitive this year. I think with the defense, I think it's real. And I think when you get down in January, when it's cold, I think that defense is huge. Stopping the run, stopping the pass.
They tough division. I mean, how do they not come in last in the division?
Yeah.
But again, like I think now you got to commit to Dable as the coach. Again, unless if it's a disaster this year, I get that. But if the team's not good again, it's like, all right, but they can't stack up with the other teams in their division, and then just the rest of the NFL in general. Like any other coach you had coached the team would not have had a winning season. So it's like, okay, we're firing him because we had a losing season, but like, who would have had a winning season with the team they got?
Yeah, I do think that too. That's where I think they'll definitely have some evaluations again after this year. I do think you honestly have to have that if you do have a losing record. I mean, you're still gonna have an evaluation, but if you look at him, you're like, this is a guy, especially with we can't compete right now. But we have this QB that Brian Dable keeps saying that this guy is going to be good, and he's under the wings, and he now finally learns the offense. He's a very good athlete.
I think Dable showed something year one.
This is Dable's first.
He showed he could coach. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know the fans have soured on him, and I think sometimes it's a time to make a move. And sometimes quickly, like, I mean, crossing sports here, but the Rangers fired Peter Laviolette as their head coach. I totally agree with the move. The year was a disaster. So I think and hockey's different in terms of coaches. They move coaches around a lot. Coaches move from spot to spot. So this is a situation where crossing sports probably isn't that productive. But still, like, I'm just trying to make the point that sometimes, you know what, you let a coach go even early on, even 2-3 years in. But I think with Dable, like, I think the Giants traded up to get Dart. You know, Dable does have this great track record with quarterbacks and with offense in general. I just think now is, you know what, you should be committed to Dable, barring like he's just incompetent and it's a disaster, lost the locker room. I get that. So you don't have to be married to him long term. But I think the plan, the loose structure should be Brian Dable is going to be our coach for the foreseeable future, and he's the one tasked with developing Jackson Dart into the next really good or great Giants quarterback.
Yeah, I do think this is his first actual guy. I mean, you look at it, Daniel Jones, but he was thrust into the Daniel Jones kind of experience. So that was not his, QB. That was not his QB. I think that he has had multiple QBs that weren't his. So he finally has his quarterback, which I'm like, if he's gonna succeed at, you got to give him a chance because this guy developed with Josh Allen. So especially if he thinks that he is a guy that's like Josh Allen and has the kind of attributes of him, I think you give him a chance. I think it's in your best. It's your best organizational, experience, organizational thoughts to give him a chance to give him a chance to coach his quarterback because he looks good. I mean, he obviously has some potential, and I'm gonna go into. I'll finally pull up my thing, and it's talking about Jackson Dart and how he has a strong arm. I mean, he is a lot of stuff that is you could develop. His big playability, he's fearless under pressure. I mean, that's a lot of stuff that you could really develop here, and how he's mobile and can extend play. Like, he has inconsistent accuracy. He has decision-making struggles. He lacks top-tier size that you can't really develop, but he can float deep passes. All that stuff and poor footwork you can develop here, but also having that potential of having a guy that could really have big playability and has a strong arm, has a good deep ball for Malik Neighbors. That could be the new guy that him and Malik Neighbors are the new 1-2 in New York, and they're the new duo in New York. And you could be looking at that and that they're the new duo, and they could be the two guys where Jackson Dart's throwing to Malik Neighbors and maybe they clean up that inconsistent accuracy. But again, he could just be a guy that makes more good plays than he does bad. So, having that guy, had him compared to Carson. I don't know why I had that. I think there's better comps out there, but yeah, he has a lot of good traits, and he's a guy that I really did like during the draft process, and I did think that he had a little bit bad. People really talked bad about him, and I didn't really understand it because the Giants signed Russell Wilson and they signed Jameis Winston, so they have guys that can give him a year to develop, and that's really good. Two good players to develop under. I know they aren't the best players, but you have Russell Wilson smarts his ability with Jameis Winston just having a very good deep ball. I mean, he can still throw some interceptions, but he's a very good locker room guy, so maybe you can learn that from him, how to be a leader and people really look after him. But yeah, he's 21 years old. Stu Hammond is 22-year-old. Now he's your starting QB at 22 or 23-year-old. I think that's good. That's very good for the Giants.
Well, the last Ole Miss quarterback of the Giants drafted, it worked out well.
Yeah, it worked out really well.
There. Hey, I mean, but seriously though, like kind of half kidding, but another Ole Miss quarterback for the Giants and an SEC quarterback. I mean, there's something to be said about playing in the SEC. I mean, that's why the SEC. I mean, look, the talent in the SEC is incredible, but these guys are prepared and they're battle tested, and and the most prepared for the NFL. I don't think that is I think that's just accurate.
He's the guy that says like I want to be excited about Jackson Dart, but I'm not. I don't understand this kind of this kind of He's gonna learn under Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, who are not too. Russell Wilson is a good quarterback to learn under. He's a very good quarterback to learn from, and also Jameis Winston being a good locker room guy. He's really a locker room really likes him. And he also wanted to be teammates with him, which is good. So those are two guys you can learn from, and also Brian Dable learning the system, and he's been a guy that. He has taken these same attributes and made Josh Allen. I'm not saying that he's gonna be Josh Allen, but he's taken these attributes and he really likes this guy because it's this guy that he took, and he has attributes that really wonder. This guy could be the Walmart versus whatever. He looks like Josh Allen. These attributes make me seem like he can develop another Josh Allen. Not like he's gonna be as good as him. But these attributes look like a player that's on Brian Dable's list of attributes that he can develop. And the deep ball, does that sound familiar? The mobile extends plays, the big playability, fearless, those sound familiar to me of the guy on the Buffalo Bills.
You know what this makes me think as the conversation goes on? People saying that, I know I'm bringing it back to what we were talking about for, I guess, 40 minutes or so before we shifted to the Giants. I mean, people saying the Giants should have picked Shedeur Sanders. Come on. Like, I mean, to me, it was the Giants traded up to get a quarterback, and it's like between Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders, and it's, the Giants are going to regret this, not picking Shedeur. No, they're not.
Yeah, Shedeur, I had him as poison accurate. He has strong arm. He's a decent enough strong arm. He's tough with mobility. He has a low turnover rate. So he's a guy that won't. He's going to keep the ball on your side.
And I said before about the comparative analysis, like how much of that did they do where they compared Shedeur to other quarterbacks and comparing other quarterbacks. So, like, you just did an analysis of Jackson Dart. And look, I'm no expert on Jackson Dart. I didn't watch him much in college, but again, just like the basics of this, like,
more traits.
The traits you described, and I keep harping on playing in the SEC and being battle tested. Again, just for the people that was, the Giants are going to regret this. They traded up. They didn't take Shedeur Sanders. This is the worst pick. Like, give me a break.
And also,
maybe Shedeur Sanders turns out to be a lot better NFL quarterback than Jackson Dart. It's possible, but at the time when the Giants made this pick on Thursday night and they traded up to make this pick, I mean, I just don't buy the argument that this is some outlandish thing that the Giants did, and then the league passing on Shedeur. I know I'm going back to the Shedeur, but it connects, right? It certainly connects. But just keeping it Giants centric. Look, it looks like a move that was a good one for them to make. It makes sense. And now, as I said, I think this should mean that Brian Dable is your coach going forward, and you're committed to allowing him to develop Jackson Dart. Like, barring this season being a disaster in terms of, Dable showing incompetence, which I don't think he's an incompetent coach, or, locker rooms, really bad, or, I don't think it should be, the Giants got to make the playoffs, or Brian Dable's got to be out, or the Giants have to go, you have to have a certain record, or Brian Dable's got to be out. Like, don't expect much from the Giants this year. You want to see improvement. Like, if you just see a team that doesn't improve and they're
you got better players. You got Abdul Carter, who will play right away, the number 3 pick. Let's not forget about that. That guy's going to play every day, every game for you, and he's going to play unless his injury is whatever his foot. He'll play, and that you have guys. You bring in guys, and you bring in Paul Sadibo, a cornerback. So you have guys that are better than that.
I think you got to look at progress. Look, I know wins are tied to progress for sure. So you don't want to have another 4 Was it 4-13 or was it
But
3
they
and
have a
14?
tough schedule this
Giants
year.
were 3-14, right? 3-14. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
don't want another 3-14. He's like, you want to see more wins this year, but it's really about the development, particularly of the younger players that they have. It's Jackson Dart coming along. So yeah, I mean, like, it's not Dable's off the hook this year. Like, he should be evaluated. If he doesn't get progress out of the team and you don't see progress out of him as a coach, then maybe you do fire him and look, you got to go another direction. But I think the long-term plan, again, you're not married to the plan. You're not married to Dable as your coach. But I think the vision should be that Dable's going to be the coach long-term, and it's now his task to develop Jackson Dart and, bring the pieces together for the Giants, so the Giants, could get back to being a competitive and winning franchise.
Okay, so you want to talk about the Jets, their first round draft pick. They got a Membu. He's a offensive lineman. Bring him in. Good. I think it's very good for them. They got their old lineman. They did a pretty good job. They need to fix that old line. So I mean I'll go over my thing on him, and then we'll go into the NBA. We'll get into that for a little bit. But my thoughts on Membu. He's a very good he's a very good tackle. The Jets needed one, especially with a lot of a lot of sacks Aaron Rodgers and all those players took. He's a great run blocker. The Jets are going to be really on the run this year with their quarterback. I mean, good running QB with Brees Hall, of course. He has solid pass protection. So that's really some good stuff for them, and they definitely need to run the ball this year. And once it gets cold again, as I say, who's going to run the ball? And they're going to be a team that they could be good. I really do think they could be a team that could be competitive. Again, they may have more talented players than the Giants do, but I think they're also in the same boat of they want to be competitive. And with Justin Fields and the way they can run the ball, they just need line. So for them right now, they're bringing a good run blocker, and he could be really good for them. With the Fashanu they drafted last year, having him left and right tackle, that is going to be a good left and right tackle duo, especially for Brees Hall to run behind, because in his first few years he's been running behind a so-so offensive line. Now he will get a better one, which will help his career because he's a good running back. So they can get him, they can get Justin Fields, and his whatever they can run some read options for him. They can do some pretty good stuff this year, and it's gonna be fun to watch him play, especially with Garrett Wilson outside, and him trying to get some good time catches, and that defense is gonna be pretty solid. Decent.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. The Jets went O-line first round. I mean, that's clearly a need.
Smart.
They
Another
went with
smart pick.
Yeah, they went with offensive picks 3 the first 4 rounds, and they went defense late. So that makes sense. Again, I don't watch a lot of college football. I can't break down to you these guys, and it's just I don't have the information and the the experience watching them to do that. Just transparent with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the draft strategy of the Jets and the way they went. Look, you take an SEC offensive lineman, highly touted, makes sense. Is he going to turn out to be a great offensive lineman in the NFL? Who knows? Nobody knows. But Jets got a new regime. They got new head coach, Aaron Glenn, new coaching staff, the new GM. So we'll see what they can do. I have no idea. I mean, Aaron Glenn, there's a lot of things I like about him. There's potential for him to be a good, successful head coach, but we got to see what the Jets do on the field this upcoming fall. I mean, it's tough to be optimistic about the Jets just with the history of the franchise and Woody Johnson's still the owner. You get into all that, but look, just for this draft, the draft makes sense. I mean, the draft grades you see, just get a good draft grade. So fine. I mean, it's good. Okay, get a good draft.
Today.
Now what are you going to do to develop these players and make it work on the field? And the Jets do have plenty of talent on the roster. Justin Fields, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what he does. So look, I mean, the Jets could be a competitive team. They could be in the mix. I think they could compete for a playoff spot, and they should. They're not a rebuild situation. They're a compete now. I mean, I don't see them as a Super Bowl contender this upcoming year, but they're a compete now, make the playoffs now franchise. So I think that
Yeah.
should be the expectation. So again, this draft is a big part of it, significant, but it's now developing these players. And I don't know. I don't know what Aaron Glenn. Maybe they could use Aaron Judge. I think he could probably be a two-way player. The guy's just ridiculous. But Aaron Glenn, look, let's see what he could do. I like that he's a former Jet. I like that element of it. You got to like his pedigree as a defensive coordinator with the Lions. And, first time head coach, I personally would have preferred an experienced head coach. But look, if he's the real deal, the Jets, were really, really tied to Aaron Glenn and bringing him back into the organization, and fine. Maybe it turns out to be really good. It has that potential.
Yeah, it does seem like.
But it's a wait and see. We just don't know. I have no. He could turn out to be a disastrous head coach. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of reason to like him as head coach, but then again, being optimistic about the Jets, that's another story. They have their ways of screwing it up, and starts at the top. But hey, I mean, the Jets have had good years with Woody Johnson as the owner. There have been. They went to back-to-back AFC title games, so it's possible. But this is another pivotal year for the New York Jets. This has to be a competitive year. This has to be a year where they're in the mix for the playoffs. That's where we're at with them.
Okay, so let's move our focus on to basketball. The Knicks, they lost game 2, and I think your prediction of Knicks in 5. Maybe I was a little bit too, Knicks fan. Maybe I was too big of a. I mean, I'm not too big of, but maybe I was too optimistic. I mean, they lost game 2. The Pistons came to play, and they really pushed their style of basketball into that game. They controlled the style of basketball. They made it a rough and tough game where it's going to be a game that it's going to be hard to score. That game was hard to score. That game was very fun to watch if you're a neutral fan and you want to watch good defensive basketball where they're going to allow some stuff. They're going to allow some stuff where put hands on some guys, give them a little bit of hip check, whatever. They're going to allow that stuff. It's playoff basketball. I thought that they need to be more consistent with if they want to do a rough game, if they want to call a tight, not a tight game, a loose game. They want to call a loose game, and they need to call it all around. But I do think that it was a tough game to win, and the Detroit Pistons, they made some shots on the stretch, and they won that game. And also, just fourth quarter stuff, not getting Karl-Anthony Towns the ball, your generational scorer, in my opinion. And I think the way he's been able to score, the way he scores the ball, the 3-point shot, it's just hard to not get him the ball. It really is. Not getting him the ball is really, it's really not the way you should run your offense, just not giving him the ball at least once. It was just him sitting in the corner. I mean, it could be a little bit of his fault. You need to man the ball. I think that's one of the things you also, it's Jalen Brunson. It could be also Jalen Brunson's fault. You need to you're the point guard. You need to get players involved. It could be Thibodeau's fault. You need to, if he's getting doubled, you need to run some play. Just a lot of fault to give around for not getting the ball. But I think that the one thing everybody can agree on is that you need to give Karl-Anthony Towns the ball. And sometimes you give him the ball, get the heck out of the way, and let him go to work. Because he's that good of a player, and not getting the ball in the fourth quarter is shocking. Or even in the second half a lot. It's shocking. Because you need to sometimes there's a guy that you need to give him the ball and get the hell out of the way. So not giving the ball is really shocking.
So how are you feeling about the series now? I mean, the Knicks pulled it out game 3, rocking crowd there in Detroit. I mean, clearly the Pistons are for real. I mean, this is a series. I'll hold off on my opinion for now because I want to get yours first. So how are you feeling right now about it as a Knicks fan? And then, just your objective analysis too, going into game 4, which is about 45 minutes away, 1 p.m. today.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I think the Knicks can definitely go up 3-1. I think the the loss in game 2, losing home court stinks, but I feel like this team's battle tested enough to go in and win 2 games in Detroit. They did. I just feel like the Knicks really, their talent came to play defensively. They played a good game. I mean, again, see the kind of pattern. Kay Cunningham doesn't have a good game shooting. The Knicks win. So if you can really limit him, you're gonna win this series, and I think that showed. Everybody else did have a very good game for the Pistons. I think the Pistons shot 43% from three, and they lost. The Knicks were able to make timely shots. Carthy Towns got the ball and get out. Everybody got the way. Which again, no one can guard him on that Pistons team. I don't understand why they're not giving the ball every single play. And either they're gonna double and you get an open three with your good 3-point shooting guys, but also it did give me a kind of confidence. I'm like, if everybody on this Knicks team, these 4 players and Cat, Brunson, OG, and Mikal can really all play well at the same time, you're really, there's not a lot of teams that can beat you, especially if they're going to do that in about a 2-game or 3-game sample size. Not a lot of teams that can beat you. Played a very good game. Jalen had 30. Carthy Towns at 31. OG Anunoby at 22, and Mikal Bridges at 20. So a very good performance team-wise. Also, Josh Hart ran around and got some good rebounds, 11 rebounds and 9 assists for him. So the starting 5 did pretty well. The starting 5 did very well, and that's what you expect for them. And if that starting 5 can play if that starting 5 can play the way that we expect, they're definitely going to win this game today. And if they win this game today, MSG's going to be rocking. I feel like they finished that game in 5.
How does Detroit win today?
Detroit's got to impose their will. They got to get up. They got to really make stuff difficult. They're going to have to play. They're going to have to play tough. They're going to have to foul. They're going to have to. They might have to foul a few times. They may have to foul someone out. But they're going to have to really get up in this Knicks shooter's way, and they're going to have to really, contain Carthy Towns. That's their biggest thing, because Jalen Brunson's going to score no matter what. I had that kind of feeling that Jalen Brunson's just that good of a player.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot you can do. But Carthy Towns, you're going to have to try to contain him, bring 2 to him, make him make tough decisions, make him throw the ball in the double teams. Contain OG Anunoby. He shouldn't have 22 again. There should be no reason why you're giving up 22 to OG Anunoby. Mikal Bridges trying to shut him down. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the others. Definitely, you don't want OG Anunoby to have 22 and Mikal Bridges to have 20. That's your recipe for disaster, because as much as you can do to Carthy Towns and Jalen Brunson, they're going to score about 25 to 30 points a game, because just the matchup for them isn't really that good.
Yeah. How about the Pistons in terms of limiting turnovers? Because they've been turning the ball over a lot.
Yeah.
Is that more on them, or is it the Knicks defense? I think the Knicks defense deserves credit, but what's Detroit got to do there?
They got to be aware of where OG Anunoby is defensively. I think you got to be smarter with the ball. But yeah, Knicks defense really took advantage of those bad passes. I think OG Anunoby had a ridiculous defensive play where he just sprung out in front of Cade and just got the ball. But yeah, I mean, you need to limit turnovers, because this Knicks team in fast break, you're giving them easy opportunities in a game that you want to toughen up. You don't want to give easy shots. If you're going to be a tough team, you don't want to give them easy looks, because you want to make every single thing difficult, which I think goes into the preview of this next game. You want to make everything difficult, so giving them easy looks is not making anything difficult. So you want to make stuff hard.
Is it fair if it's a close game? Like I can see this going one of 2 ways. I guess there's multiple ways, but I mean, look, the Knicks are on the road. That place is rocking. I feel like this is going to be another grind of a game. This has been a grind of a series, but physical. It's got Chippy. I I, I could see either a game 2 type of scenario where the Pistons come out here and take game 4, they're home, even it up, or I don't know. Like I don't see the Knicks because it's on the road and the Pistons have proven themselves, shown themselves to be a worthy opponent here in the first round. The Knicks are clearly the better team, and I think they'll win the series. But I think the Knicks got to grind this one out. Like this is
They're gonna steal this game. They have to steal.
A game 4 against an opponent that's a legitimate opponent
that also is playing with some desperation, like they did.
Yeah, like I don't see the Knicks going in game 4 on the road and just like really taking the Pistons and winning by double digits or winning by 15 or anything like that. Like I think the Knicks are gonna have to grind one. They're gonna have to grind one out here. But I feel good about that, though. Like, does it make sense to say, like, if it's a close game late, I like the Knicks. I think the Knicks pull that out with their experience,
Yeah. Jalen Brunson,
with Towns, with OG on defense. Like, I just like the Knicks to pull that out. But I could see the Pistons really showing up today at home, not blowing the Knicks out, but, a game where, they get up in double digits and they're in control of the game. Knicks will push back, but then ultimately the Pistons win the game. Like I could see it going one of two ways there. Does that make sense? Or do you see a scenario where the Knicks just, the Pistons are kind of like exhausted. They've given everything they can in the series. And now, now it's just the Knicks take over from here. So where do you see this going?
I see this being a very close game late. And I think that Jalen Brunson is inevitable. I think there's nothing you could do about him. He's going to get to a spot. He's either going to draw a foul or get to a spot. And there's nothing you can do because they're very over-aggressive. And what Jalen Brunson likes to do is he's going to get inside. And if you're going to be over-aggressive in any basketball player, they're going to get to the line. They're going to draw some fouls. So that is just inevitable. He's going to get to the basket. He's going to get to where he wants to go. And he's going to – and they just have a guy. And also, you bring 2 to it, you overreact. Carthy Towns can hit a big shot or two. OG Anunoby can hit a big shot. McKelber's missed some big shots. I'm not even. But OG Anunoby hit some big shots. Carthy Towns can hit some big shots from 3. So they really, it's inevitable for Jalen Brunson. He's a big-time clutch scorer. So, and the Pistons, I mean, Cade Cunningham's great, but they had to rely on Dennis Schroeder to close that game out in game 2. That's not when you compare that stuff. If it's tie game, I like my odds with Jalen Brunson over Dennis Schroeder, and I don't think that's really crazy at all to say. So,
Yeah, I give Detroit the respect.
Yeah,
I think they're gonna be right in this game. It is in their building, but ultimately, the Knicks late, I think get it done. Like you said, Brunson. You can see him having one of those 35, 40-point games. Towns will do his thing. Yeah, I think you get a close game. I think you get a grind of a game, a physical game. But the Knicks are just a better team, the more experienced team, very well coached team, tough defense. The Knicks are at that level now where they'll get it done in this situation. And it's a tough situation. I mean, again, the Pistons, they're legit. I mean, this has been, a first-round series for the Knicks where they've really been pushed.
Yeah.
But I think this is the point now. The Knicks get this win on the road, and then they go back to the Garden. And, Pistons, I don't think there'll be an easy closeout at the Garden. But I think the Knicks are in that spot where they will win in 5. So I'm sticking with Knicks in 5.
So I'm going to give like a little bit of a talk on each kind of series. I mean, whatever. I mean,
yeah.
The Grizzlies are done. The Grizzlies are done completely. They're actually eliminated.
Surprised by that.
Officially. I mean, it's really early. But, the Clippers, they tied the series up at 2-2. I mean, not the Clippers. Nuggets tied the series up at 2-2 with the Aaron Gordon game winner. I mean, huge win for them. It kind of changed the series. I mean, you could either go to overtime, and who knows in overtime. You can go down 3-1. Now for it being 2-2 back to your home court, now you have the advantage. So that's huge for them. They are playing very short-handed right now. They don't have some bench guys that they need. Their depth is very shot right now. But I do I I do think that the minutes are really gonna get to them. I think they don't really their bench guys are Peyton Watson, DeAndre Jordan, Jalen Pickett, and this other guy, and they played a combined 13-5-6-2. So and then you have Jokic 43 minutes, Christian Braun 43 minutes, Aaron Gordon 43 minutes, Jamal Murray 42 minutes, Michael Porter Jr. 40. I know I'm a Knicks fan with Thibodeau, but this is kind of insane. They only get 3 players off the bench. Seems like see. I mean, this is insane. It's going to be a lot for them to handle, especially going into Game 5 when they go Game 5, Game 6, Game 7. They just played 43 minutes, a lot of minutes. Does that really wear and tear them going into the next game? The Clippers gave their best effort, but now Denver has the advantage at home. So this series could really go any way.
And Lakers Timberwolves game 4 today. So Timberwolves got it done. They bounced back after the Lakers won game 2 in LA. So Timberwolves at home up 2-1. Where do you see that one going?
I just really like the Timberwolves and their depth. I do. I mean, 30 minutes for Rui Hachimura and 8 points. I mean, and you're playing Jordan, like the depth for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, Nick Legend, Donnie DiVincenzo gave them 10 points on not really that good shooting, but he gave him 10 points. It was impactful. Played great defense. Julius Randle on 22. They just have guys. Naj Reid can chip him with 11. Mike Conley chips him with 9. So they're really impressive how deep they are, and how they just play swarming defense. So I don't. And then Luka just had 17, so I think he bounces back. But it's going to be a real tough game for the Lakers, and I think the Minnesota Timberwolves really pull this game out, and they're really good in their building in the playoffs. Their building is rocking, so they're definitely. I think they're going to pull this game out.
Then you got Rockets Warriors. Golden State up 2-1.
Yeah, I think the Rockets, even though they're number 2 seed, they're really inexperienced. I think it's showing. The Warriors, whatever growing pain the Rockets are going through in the playoffs, the Warriors been there. They've been there for a bunch of years, so the growing pains are done. Even though they're a 7 seed, they may not be the most talented team. They've been there. They've done that. The experience matters. Steph Curry's the ultimate closer. He's the ultimate guy. And he's just inevitable. Also, we talk about Jalen, but he's literally inevitable. There's nothing you can do about Steph Curry, and even that series is, I think, in my opinion, done. Because you win a game without Jimmy Butler, you're in a good driver's seat. You're in the driver's seat. You're going back home up 2-1. You take that game. Maybe they lose 1 in Houston, but then they go back home and I think they win in 6.
Then we go to the East, Cavs Heat. I mean, that's gone pretty much the way you would think it would go, with the Cavs just dominating.
Yeah, they're really good.
And then Pacers Bucks.
Really. What?
Pacers Bucks, so the Bucks did get a win in game 3.
Gary Trent Jr. had 36 points. Oh my goodness. That was ridiculous. They needed somebody to step up because Damian Lillard has been really, I mean, I think they rushed him back. I don't know. It's kind of hard to get into. I don't think because of blood clot injury, you can't really. He just playoff conditioning and just everything. It's hard to just throw a player in the playoffs and be like, you're going to play now, especially being a second option. They really needed him. It showed like they really needed him in game one. They really needed him. So kind of a lot of pressure on him. But yeah, Gary Trent Jr. stepped it up. I think the Pacers will wrap this one up in 5, and they do. I think you're not going to get you're not going to get 37 points from Gary Trent Jr. again. And it's going to have to, Damian Lillard's going to have to step up, but I don't really think, I think throwing him in the playoffs has really hurt him. And I think the Bucks are really done. But good win for them, getting that Gary Trent Jr. 37 bomb. So at least they didn't lose in a sweep.
Celtics Magic. So Boston's up 2-1. Magic won game 3, 90.
Great win. Get those
93.
Celtics tired. Get those Celtics tired. Get those Celtics really
Yeah, it's
tired.
good
Make
for the
them
Knicks.
work. Make them work. Yeah, I think the Magic, they're a tough team to play, but I do think that the Celtics win in 5 and they win this game. The Magic got some favorable calls at the end again. You're the 2 seed. You're the defending champions. You shouldn't be in that situation to get that call at the end of the game where it's an inadvertent whistle, thinking it's gonna be a backcourt violation. They call a backcourt violation on Banchero, even though it didn't look like it. Then they say an inadvertent whistle. Might be the right call, but again, you're pretty mad if you're a Celtics fan because you just had the. And then I think at the end of I don't even know what happened at the end of the game. I kind of forgot. There's another call, but there were some calls at the end of the game. But again, you can't put yourself in that situation. The Magic really played a tough game. They played grit and grind style. They mucked up the game. They played the game they wanted to play, and that's kind of the if you want to beat talented teams, if you want to beat talented teams, you have to play the game you want to play. You have to control your game. Make them play your game. That's the way you beat talented teams.
So I guess Tatum's okay. He was out game 2, 36 in game 3, so it looks like he's all right. Do you see anything from the Celtics where you say, there could be an opening here if the Knicks get past the Pistons, which we both think they will? Do you take anything from the Celtics series against the Magic and say, you know what, the Boston's vulnerable and maybe the Knicks
Well, I do think
play a very competitive series. Maybe the Knicks could take them deep. Maybe the Knicks could go to 7th game. I mean, is there anything you see from the Celtics that gives you hope with the Knicks going up against them probably in the second round?
I think if you put the pressure on defensively, I don't know how much the Knicks can do that, but I think if you put the pressure up defensively, they are vulnerable. That could definitely help you with taking the 3-point shot away. I mean, you're getting up in their area. They can't really just make it tough to get in their sets. I think, honestly, if you just pressure the ball, just stuff
The
like
Knicks
that.
took them to overtime in the last regular season
When they were
game
fully
played.
healthy with Mitch Robb. So I think that they could compete with them. I do not like compete with them, like win a game, win or two. I think they could compete with them for 5 or 6 games. But I mean, hey, I've seen there's crazier upsets. That's my thing. There's been crazier upsets in the world. So,
is there anything you took from that last game against the Celtics that the Knicks lost in overtime at Madison Square Garden? Was anything in that game? I know it's a regular season game. And you don't want to make too big a deal about it in regards to the playoffs. But I still think there's things you could draw from the regular season. Not the regular season means nothing, but is there anything you saw in that game? You say, you know what? I think the Knicks got a chance against the Celtics.
Mitchell Robinson's rebounding, I think, was huge. I think him on the boards. But I also think Jaylen Brown, the way he was running, I mean, he wasn't really running. His knee really hurt, but I think now he's been able to get through that. But I think, honestly, Porzingis has cooled off. And if he can continue that, if he can continue sucking into the playoff, into the Knicks series, if they do end up playing, that'd be great. Because the guy had 40 last time the Knicks played them. I think 30 or 40. So, that could be it. Maybe that's a one-time thing of him having 30 points. Maybe that doesn't happen again. So what do you really have now? But I do think it's a 6-game win for the Celtics and the Knicks. But I do think they take this series in 5 against the Magic.
Any other thoughts on the NBA playoffs? So, big slate of games today. So it's 4 games today. Knicks kick it off, and then it's the Celtics. Any other thoughts on the NBA, or you have a couple Mets thoughts before we sign off? We haven't done baseball in the last 2 weeks. I mean, the Mets are playing really well.
Yeah, they're playing really well.
19-8.
Yeah, pitching well. They won a shutout game yesterday. The pitching has been really well. The bullpen's been really well. So,
Look, they've got off to a great start. I mean, it's important to get off to a good start or a really good start. So 19-8. I mean, the Mets look legit. I mean, we knew they're legit. So they're doing their thing right now. So you got to be happy with the Mets. And, I think they're going to have to bolster their pitching before the deadline. But, the pitching's pretty good. I mean, they've pitched well. But it's all about, for the Mets, going after a World Series title. They're at that level now. And you have the Dodgers. Dodgers haven't been great. I mean, they haven't been that good recently, honestly. They're 16-10. They got off to, 8-0. So that means they're, 8-10 in the last 18. I don't think there's any alarm or cause concern with the Dodgers. The Dodgers have not been great yet. San Diego's in first place, I think, by a game or so. San Diego's really good. So, I mean, you look at Major League Baseball right now, the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Mets. I mean, those are clearly the top three teams, and nobody in the American League comes close. And the American League's wide open. Nobody's very good in the American League. I don't know if anybody's really that good. There's some teams in the American League that are pretty good or could be good, but I mean, the National League in terms of the teams that are at the top, which is what we expected. I mean, they're just far superior to the American League teams. The Phillies have cooled off. So I don't know with them. I mean, they didn't do really anything in the offseason. They got off to the hot start, but
the Mets absolutely took their lunch money. They swept them, took their lunch money, took it, ate it, like they did. They did in the playoffs. Took their lunch money. I mean, I'm just kidding. Not really, but they had their number, which is huge because they're a team in the NL East. If they want to win that division, that's just gonna be huge. Trying to beat them.
Yeah, Braves are coming on. They got off to a terrible start. They've come on of late, so we'll see with them. I mean, the Mets should win the division. I picked the Braves before the year, but I don't count the Braves out. You can't totally count them out, but the Mets have built a good lead over them. I mean, it is early. We're about a month into the season, 1/6 of the way through. But the Mets are in a really good spot. Like, seeing this play out now, like the Mets, they should win the National League East. And they should be right in the mix. And, they're one of the elite teams in Major League Baseball. I think the Dodgers are on another level than everybody. There's the elite teams, I guess, call them that. Like the Mets are an elite team. They're a top end team, but like the Dodgers are in this another level where they're the elite of the elite. I think they're a legitimate juggernaut despite only being 16-10. So far good. So far so good for the Mets. And then the Yankees, I mean, they've played pretty well so far. They're in this.
Yeah.
Well, they're in this American League, and it's just so bunched up. But I think for the Yankees, look, they're pretty good. They should be right in the mix for the American League East. They lead the division now. The Red Sox have been up and down, but they'll be right there. They have plenty of talent. So it's like the American League, it's kind of tough to forecast where it's going. I mean, the Orioles in the American League East have not played well, but can't count them out. Toronto started out hot. They've cooled off. So the AL, it's like, who's really any good? I mean, Detroit's off to a good start, but it's all bunched up. So it's very different between the National League and the American League this year.
So that's going to do it for this episode. We'll discuss more about Major League Baseball as it gets on to later stages, but also we'll discuss about the NBA, of course, as the playoffs don't move along, and we'll discuss, I guess, a little about NFL as maybe we see those players in training camp or whatever.
NFL schedule.
Yeah.
Coming out soon. That's usually around this time of year, early May, so we can talk about the schedule once it comes out.
Yeah, the schedule, So, that's going to do it. Have a nice day. Signing off.